Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 153. I am Brendan. Fight night. UFC Fight Night Ortega versus Rodriguez prelims. We're going to go over the prelims here if you're looking for the main event and the main card. That's in the last video. This one's going to have Punahele Soriano versus Algeo Lungiambula, Bill Algeo, Herbert Burns, Ricky Simone versus Jack Shore, and the rest of the prelim cards. We're going to go over that here. Before we get started, if you like the UFC, if you like MMA, if you like podcasts about those things, you like people talking about fights and breaking them down, that's what I do here. So subscribe to the channel so that way you catch the next video when it comes out. And if you do like the video, press the like button. I super appreciate it. All right, let's go. Punahele Soriano taking on Algeo Lungiambula. So this was the featured prelim fight. It was Lungiambula. Punahele ends up getting the KO. He was tentative to begin with in this fight, and then because Lungiambula hits hard, right? So there's nothing wrong with being tentative there. It's just he was slowly moving in. They thought maybe he was going to use a little bit of wrestling to slow down Lungiambula, and he did a little bit, but he didn't. It didn't have to go that long because they were in the second round and it was right away. The first round. Lungiambula landed a heavy leg kick, taking Soriano legs out from underneath him. He landed some good damage to the body. Lungiambula also got backed up, taking some big shots. So he ended up diving on a takedown himself. In that first round. The first round was pretty close. Obviously, the striking numbers here are 11-10 in favor of Soriano, but probably Lungiambula took that just because his shots were harder. That'd be my guess. And then in the second round, Punahele just landed a huge left hook and put Dalcha down, finishing up with some, needless strikes, really. Huge left hand, catches him with a right, puts him out. Great win for him. Coming off of two losses in a row to Nick Maximov and Brendan Allen. The Maximov one was a split decision. He could have ended up taking that one home. The Brendan Allen one, that was a decisive victory for Brendan. And he's got good wins, man. Jamie Pickett, the Dusko Todorovic, he's turned out to be kind of a stinker. But, and his losses aren't to scrubs, and he's got a win over another, exciting up-and-comer. Punahele can make a move here. He at middleweight. He has the skills to do it. He has the power to do it. He has a good chin. His wrestling is going to be nowhere near the guys in the upper echelon of middleweight, but, who is. But, the middleweight's dominated right now by a guy who's just the counter wrestler. He doesn't even do offensive wrestling, so this might be the way to go, just being a tough son of a bitch and moving forward, although with Izzy, we've seen through different iterations that doesn't work out. So I think you got to bring something new to the table. I'm not saying that Punahele is in title contention or that's the only thing he should be worried about. Obviously, he's got a long way to go before he makes it to that point. But in this division, that's kind of what you're gearing up towards, right? In middleweight, that's what you're looking for is who can take on the champ, who can make his way to the champion, who can present a unique stylistic matchup. And we've seen wrestle-heavy opponents. We've seen brawlers. We've seen mixed martial artists. We've seen a lot of people go against Izzy, and they just can't keep up with him. He just puts them all away. So I don't know what the strategy is now, except maybe, Alex Pereira with the kickboxing. All right, good win for Punahele. Ricky Simone taking on Jack Shore. So Simone has 5 wins in a row. One of them was not at bantamweight. I think one of them was at featherweight, but he beats Jack Shore here via knockout in the second round. Jack was doing a good job defending takedowns. He was doing actually a great job, in my opinion. In the first round, as far as striking numbers were going, Ricky Simone taking the advantage 12-11. And Simone just pressed him against the cage the entire time and big brothered him. He was just bullying him around, pushing him against the cage, and Shore did a good job of not getting taken down and not letting those positions, take him out of the fight necessarily, because he worked his way back. And if Simone didn't have a gas tank that he does in the second round, things could have turned around. That's not the case. That's not what happened here. Simone ended up he kept pushing forward, and he picked him up at one point and slammed him down, which is pretty cool. You don't see that very much, although we did see it twice on this card. And Simone landed a big right hand that and then jumped on the neck of Jack Shore and frickin' got an arm triangle and put him out. He tapped. Great win for him, man. I mean, so he also called out Sugar Sean O'Malley. I think that's a great call out. Sean O'Malley's currently ranked number 12. Ricky Simone is 13. He got bumped down because of nonsense with Frankie Edgar moving up for some reason. Not that I don't hate Frankie Edgar. He's one of my favorites. It's just he hasn't. When's the last time he fought? Was his loss to? Yeah, his loss in November of last year to Marlon Vera. So why is he moving up a ranking when he hasn't fought since 2021 and it was a loss? See how these rankings make no sense? Anyway, Ricky Simone should be bouncing. So Frankie Edgar and him will probably switch place. Oh, no, he won't. So Ricky Simone will probably jump to 12. Sean O'Malley will move up to 11 maybe. I don't know. I don't know how these... Jack Shore is probably going to drop out of the rankings here, unfortunately, because he was undefeated. He's got a little bit he needs to work on. And Simone, let's see, if he can beat O'Malley and take away some of that hype, we're talking about one win to put him in a title after that. So one win after Sean O'Malley, somewhere in here, to put him in the title conversation. Not necessarily title contention, but one win and puts him in here. And then because of that, he would have 6 wins in a row. That's incredible. And there's not a lot of argument you can make against him inside here other than Dvalishvili, who, in my opinion, hasn't had a loss in the UFC. Because the one he did was bullshit. Okay, cool. Let's move on here. Yeah, great win for Simone. Jack Shore still young. He's still got a lot of time, and he still can bring it back and make a run again. I mean, he's still like I said, he's still really young. He still has a lot of improvement that he can make. And for a European fighter, he's an excellent wrestler. Or a British fighter, he's an excellent wrestler. So he's already got a good base. His striking is good. Simone is just more experienced, especially at this level, and he just knew exactly what to do to beat him, and he did it. All right, Bill Algeo versus Herbert Burns. Herbert Burns is he the younger brother or the older brother of Gilbert Burns? Now I don't know. Damn it. Anyway, what's TO? Why does it say details TO? Should be TKO? I don't know. That's weird. Bill Algeo ended up getting the win here via what I would call quitting, or, he didn't even quit on the stool, although he could have been called for that too. So there's a little bit to break down in this fight, a little bit of bullshit and shenanigans, but also something to talk about as far as Bill Algeo being just a beast. Algeo was in a deep triangle. He was. Like, Burns had him dead to rights. He had this locked up. This submission was rough, and he had him in really bad trouble. He was elbowing him, and Algeo refused to tap. He worked his way out of it. He was in it for a while too, like a minute, and he was just constantly working forward, trying to work his way out of it, moving around. He did a good job, got out of it, and then positioned himself in half guards, got on top, and laid out some ground and pound and made Herbert Burns fucking pay. Like he did. And he laid into him so much that Burns didn't want to get up. At one point, Burns was on his back. Algeo stands up and tells him to get up. And then he was down there for 5 seconds as Keith Peterson was telling him to get up, and he didn't move. He just didn't get up. In my opinion, that's it. That's the end of the fight. That's it. You can't do that. That was in the first round. The second he tells you to get up, you got to at least be working. If you're going to play the game and play the system, you got to look like you're in the process of getting up, even if you're doing it slowly. He wasn't doing any of that. He just laid there. And in my opinion, he quit already. He fucking quit. That's the end of it. But they gave him another opportunity, so fine. So in the second round here, Burns went for some not Hail Mary, but he was aggressively going for some submissions, including heel hooks. He threw up another triangle at one point. And I was like, you know what? He deserves all the punishment he gets for laying on the ground and not getting up. Because that's fucking cheating. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this about cheating and all that other stuff. We don't have to get into that here. It doesn't matter. You could say whatever you want about his heart or quitting. I'm not going to make quality judgments on him as a person or as a fighter, like maybe a little bit as a fighter, but he's obviously a front runner. If he doesn't do well in the fight, he kind of quits, and that's fine. We've had lots of fighters like that with decent careers. He has the jiu-jitsu ability to put a lot of people out. We've seen that. Cool. But I think this is more on Peterson than it is on Burns. When he's just sitting on the ground, you got to call it. That's the end of it. I know that seems anticlimactic for some other people. Be like, oh, how could you call the fight? He told you to get up and you didn't fucking get up. That's the end of it. That's the end of it. There's no warnings, no repeating myself, none of that shit. I told you to get up and you didn't get up. You're blatantly ignoring an instruction from the referee. And this is not, as far as severity of fouls or ignoring instruction, right? When you grab when you're grabbing the fence and the referee says stop that and slaps your hand, and then you're still holding it, and then he takes a position away from you and then takes a point, that's fine. When you're on the ground and the referee has separated you and your opponent can't engage with you, you're actively preventing the fight from proceeding, essentially giving yourself a timeout. That's not allowed. You can't do that shit. Fight's over. Fight's over. That's the end of it. It's not like when you say get up and the guy's tired and he's clearly working his way back up and he's just, working as hard as he can just to mentally tough it out and pull himself back together and get up. And the referee repeats himself. Yeah, it's rough. And sometimes you can tell the guy is he's gaming the system and he's taking a little longer than he needs to. This was not the case. Herbert Burns fucking sat there. He quit. He quit multiple times. He quit in the first round and he quit in the second round. Peterson, you got to stop that one. You got to stop it. All right. Let's go to a good win for Algeo. The dude's tough as shit. And he's a tough motherfucker. Dustin Jacoby versus Da Un Jung. Fun fight. While it lasted in the first round, Jacoby ends up getting the KO victory here. Dustin Jacoby was landing decent shots here or there, but it was a close fight. And you can see here, it plays right out on the striking numbers, 14-14, all tied up when the fight came to an end. So that number 14 that Jacoby threw was a nasty right hand that put Jung down on the ground. His eyes rolled back in his head. He slammed his head on the ground, and then he kind of regained consciousness. But in the process, Jacoby turned around because he is a kickboxer, and kickboxers tend to have that built-in habit of, I landed a good shot, they drop down, I'm going to do the walk-off KO. Because in kickboxing or boxing, when you knock your opponent down, you're not allowed to engage, obviously. You have to back off. Mark Hunt was famous for the walk-off KO. I've made comments about this in the past about how it's again half gaming the system, half habit, and then a third half of actual, feeling that your opponent might be out, so you're not going to inflict any more additional damage. Okay, so those three halves, and that's kind of what it is, right? It's a combination of all of them, and they all play their part in where the fight is at that moment. Like if you've been in a grueling war and you knock the guy down and you put your hands up because you don't want to fight anymore and you want to try and get the referee to step in because, if the referee thought it was bad enough and you walk away and put your hands up, you might get that KO and you might not have to re-engage and possibly, extend the fight. Sometimes you land really clean and you see the guy go out and you don't want to land any additional damage, i.e., let's see, Lyoto Machida versus not Pedro Munoz. Munoz. The wrestler. They trained together. He put him down on the ground, and then he pulled back on the right hand that he was going to throw for ground and pound. And then the last part, not the last one that I said, but the other one is, habit. Right? So they have the habit, being from the kickboxing background, to step away, and it's instinctual at this point. It's Pavlovian. It's built in, it's ingrained into your system. And Jacoby probably did that last one, where he saw that his eyes rolled back and then he stepped away. And then Jung regained consciousness, started to get up, but Kevin McDonald stepped in there and called it. I thought it was a little bit, I would have liked to have seen Jacoby throw at least one more punch. I understand that Jung wasn't necessarily with it, but after he hit the ground, he regained his consciousness and he stood back. He stood right up when the fight was ended. And yeah, he was wobbly. Like, when the commentary team says, he's on wobbly legs standing up, of course he is. Are you telling me that didn't see 30 other fights in the past 2 weeks where someone had wobbly legs and continued to fight? That's not a reason for a stoppage. Okay, so take that out of your vocabulary, please. If you say that he doesn't know where he is, that's okay. But unless he is unwilling to, like, he can't physically move his body and he's clearly out of it and can't defend himself, then, the fight can still continue. And he took one bad punch, was on the ground, and was probably going to take more, but let's see at least one. And this is partially on Jacoby. He didn't go in for the finish. He just backed off, and maybe this did save Da Eun-jung's brain. Maybe it saved him some extra damage that he didn't need to take. Maybe his career extends a little bit because of this. And, good on Jacoby, good on Da Eun-jung, good on McDonald, the ref, good on everybody. It's just, I don't like when that happens because you want to see the end of the fight. You don't want to ask questions. This is not an egregious stoppage. I think the stoppage was fine. I just would like to have been at least one more punch. Just a follow-up on the ground to let me know, hey, he's done. As far as Jacoby in the light heavyweight division, I mean, he was ranked number 15 before this weekend. He was fighting a guy who's unranked, so I don't know what that does necessarily for his ranking. He might jump ahead of Crute. Maybe Johnny Walker coming off a loss. Ryan Spann. I don't know if he's going to jump that far. But him taking on Ozdemir could be fun. I think that'd be a really fun fight. I think Jamal Hill has too much momentum to be fighting someone who's ranked below him. Paul Craig, same thing. Maybe he doesn't have the name recognition that an exciting highlight reel. I don't know. With those submissions from the bottom, it's pretty exciting. Dominic Reyes, coming off of the law. I mean, he hasn't fought in a while either. Thiago Santos. Now we're talking about guys, that have recently fought for a title. So I wouldn't necessarily put him up there. Volkan Ozdemir seems like the way to go, unless he's already matched up. Nikita Krylov could be a fun fight too. You could even match him up against one of these guys, Crute, Walker, or Spann. But I would give him someone in the top 10, see how we do. Jacoby is a little bit of an older fighter, so. Dwight Grant versus Dustin Stoltzfus. This fight went the distance with Stoltzfus getting the decision win here. Grant was throwing some of the sloppiest hooks. He throws some of the sloppiest hooks. Also, he has a very weird body shape. He's all legs and arms. He has like no torso. So it's an interesting body shape that's built really well for certain types of offense and defense. Being that he has a really long reach and also a really long leg reach, but he's not very tall, right? So it's a little weird. Usually when you're taller, you have longer legs. It is not the case when you're fighting Grant necessarily. So Grant was throwing some of the sloppiest hooks I've ever seen, but when they land, they did so much damage. And Grant landed more of the damage in the first round for me, that's for sure. So I gave him that first round 10-9. You can see here on the striking numbers that does play out 23-17 in favor of Grant, and those strikes that he did land were really big and sloppy and hard shots. Dustin got a takedown late in the second round and landed some good ground and pound and had some submission attempts. This is bullshit. The fact that it says there's no submission attempts, he attempted them, and he was on the back. So I gave this second round to Stoltzfus, and it also that plays out here just in the striking numbers if you just want to look at that. But there was also obviously control time, almost 2 minutes of control time in the second round, and then 2 minutes of control time in the third. But the striking numbers did play out here, 20-14 in favor of Dustin. And then in the third round, Dustin lifted him up, and he was gaming a little bit. He was having fun in there, and he was when the crowd goes woo, makes that noise. Stoltzfus made that noise, and he was talking to Grant a little bit, not disrespectfully, just like hyping up, saying let's have fun, just being a little bit of a showman. Pretty good stuff. And then at one point, he actually lifted Grant up. Grant did a decent job defending against takedowns in the first 2 rounds. Not a lot came his way, but he did a decent job. And in the third round, he got lifted this time. He got lifted up. Stoltzfus walked him around the octagon, walked him to the middle, and then slammed him down, which was pretty cool. You don't see that much anymore, although, like I said, you did see this twice on this card with Ricky Simone versus Jack Shore. The damage Dustin did in the end of the round from top position gave him that fight in that last round. I know the striking numbers don't necessarily play that out, 12-15 in favor of Grant, but if you look at, if you watch my last video, I explained this when I covered the Shane Burgos versus Charles Jourdain semi-controversial decision. I explained a scenario in which you can land 0 strikes and your opponent can land decent, significant strikes, and you can still do more physical damage, and one of those things being slam, right? In this case, I think that slam was enough to bridge the gap here as far as damage goes, and obviously the 2 minutes of control time doesn't hurt, so even if you want to say, oh, they were even on damage, obviously Stoltzfus did more in this fight or in this round to try and end it, and then his total striking numbers. So it's not just significant strikes; the total number of strikes add up, and 54-15 in favor of Stoltzfus. So this is one of those scenarios, like I said, in which you might not be ahead on the significant striking numbers, but you could do more damage, right? You could do more damage, even immediate damage with those slams, because that counts for more points. That counts for more points than cumulative damage. All right, and then Jessica Penne versus Emily Ducote. Penne, I'll say it again. I said it in the last video. And I've said it with a lot of these female fighters. The game just moved past them. And and here's the thing, Penne did, and maybe not. Maybe Penne ends up losing a decision victory here. We don't have to break it down round by round, but basically Ducote, she hit Penne with a crazy amount of leg strikes here. Look at this. Total number of leg strikes, 51. She landed 51 leg kicks, guys. 51 in a 3-round fight. And to the point where Penne almost got disabled by them in the last round, but she did not. I mean, Ducote landed 25 leg kicks in the last round, and they were hard leg kicks, and Penne still didn't crumble. She's really tough, and she's, she beat Lupi Godinez and Karolina Kovacevic back in 2021, and Ducote was the Invicta champ before coming to the UFC, so she's, a highly touted prospect as far as UFC is concerned. And, maybe the game hasn't moved past Penne. But Ducote is definitely the next one up, and Penne is one of the the falling away old guard. So Penne could still have some fun fights, but I don't necessarily think she's going to be moving up the rankings and challenging for a title ever again. In a division, to be honest, that's the deepest female division in the UFC. So Ducote just outstruck her in every single round, doing a great job. Penne did she did okay, and she landed some hard strikes. It just wasn't enough. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, I even maybe gave that last round to Penne because of some of the strikes that she landed, and apparently two of the refs did as well. Two of the judges did as well, but that's insignificant and unconsequential. So that is it. That is the prelims. If you're looking for the main card, it's in the last video, including the main fight, obviously, Ortega versus Rodriguez. Thank you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate it. If you made it this far, just subscribe to the channel because clearly you like something that I did, and all my videos are going to be kind of like this. So I make 2 or 3 videos like this every single week covering a ton of fights in MMA. Sometimes I do boxing. Sometimes I do kickboxing. If there's like big events, I'll do those kinds of things. I appreciate you all for stopping by. It means a lot to me. Like I said, if you're looking for the main cards in the last video, if this is the only one you're watching this week, thanks for stopping by. It means a lot to me. Weird flex, but okay. And I love y'all. Hope you have an amazing week.